Greetings Internet. Today we will touch on a certain topic and discuss, was the Muhammad illiterate, or actually he was able to read and write? Many Abduls are unaware of this, but by authentic ahadiths and information, what has been gathered by Islamic scholars and Fair books, Muhammad was not illiterate. Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 1, Book 3, Number 65. Let's read this Sahih Hadith from Bukhari. Narrated Anas bin Malik. Once the Prophet wrote a letter, or intended to write a letter, the Prophet Muhammad was told that they, the rulers, would not read the letters unless they were sealed. So the Prophet got a silver ring made with Muhammad the Messenger of Allah engraved on it. Sounds quite interesting. I have another ahadith for you. Sahih al-Bukhari, Volume 7, Chapter 39 and 40, the numbers 5133 and number 5134, narrated by Aisha, that the Prophet Muhammad wrote the marriage contract with her when she was 6 years old, and he consumed his marriage when she was 9 years old, and then she remained with him for 9 years till he died. The other hadith tells basically the same, but it's not even my biggest facts. If you wonder, let's go to the next hadith, and then shall we listen what some people say about Muhammad. Musnad, Imam Ahmad, Volume 2, Ahadith 1404. Salim bin Abi Umayya Abu Nadr said, I sat with an old man of Banu Tamim in the mosque of Basra, who had a document in his hand that was at the time of Al-Hajjaj. He said to me, O slave of Allah, do you think that this document could help me in any way with this governor? I said, what is this document? He said, this is a document from the Messenger of Allah, which he wrote for us to say that no transgression should be committed against us with regard to our zakat. Let's read how this man got this document from Muhammad. He'll just quote the needed part. For evidence, you can pause the video and read this hadith completely. So, they went the old man's father with Talha to Muhammad together, and notice it's according to this hadith. Talha says, O Messenger of Allah, this man is a man of desert, and is a friend of ours. He would like you to write a document for him, stating that none should transgress against him with regard to his zakat, and as the hadith tells, Muhammad wrote him such a document. Good. Let's watch this video, which again exposes Muhammad as not being illiterate. So, bear with me, and let's watch a video about Muhammad, and after that we watch the video, I'll show you what one Muslim Abdul can add to our discussion.
One of the most ingrained dogmas among the followers of Muhammad is that he was illiterate. That is, he could not read and write. They have created this dogma to prove to the world that Muhammad could not possibly have created the verses of the Qu'ran, and hence they had to have been revealed to him by Allah. Are these assumptions factual?
The Quran and Muhammad's followers use this alleged illiteracy as a fact, and hence imply that the Quranic revelations are divine. This is of course utterly false and nonsensical, since the greatest legacy of the pagan Arabs was their poetry. Their poets were able to recite excellent odes although they were illiterate. Their poetry did not depend on whether or not they could read and or write. According to the historical records, Muhammad actually plagiarized some very important verses from other poets and put them in his Quran. Such poets as Imr al-Qais, Hassan bin Thabit, Zayd bin Nufail, etc. Most relevant of all are the following hadith stories written by his followers and not by his enemies that paint a completely different picture. Sahih al-Bukhari hadith 7.573 narrated by Ibn Abbas. When Allah's apostle was on his deathbed, and in the house there were some people among whom was Umar ibn Khattab, the Prophet said, "Come, let me write for you a statement after which you will not go astray." Umar said, "The Prophet is seriously ill, and you have the Quran, so the book of Allah is enough for us." The people present in the house differed and quarreled. Some said, "Go near, so that the Prophet may write for you a statement after which you will not go astray." While the others said, as Umar said. When they caused a hue and cry before the Prophet, Allah's apostle said, "Go away," narrated Ubaidullah. Ibn Abbas used to say, it was very unfortunate that Allah's apostle was prevented from writing that statement for them because of their disagreement and noise. It was Muhammad who demanded a pen and paper for himself to write a statement. The allegedly illiterate Muhammad was able to read and write after all. His followers who were present did not grasp the magnitude or the implications of such a request, since they truly believed that he was illiterate. After all, he was the messenger of Allah, who could not possibly tell a lie. They thought that he was delirious and did not know what he was saying. The fact is that it is exactly when a person is delirious that the truth comes out of him, because one is not in full control of one's faculties, which would otherwise have prohibited him from telling the truth. Muhammad had been deceiving all his followers for almost 23 years, and in this manner he made them believe that he was being inspired by Allah. He had mastered the perfect scam and succeeded and is still succeeding, even as we are speaking today, into having his followers believe all his lies and fabrications in his Quran. Sunan of Abu Dawood Hadith 2993 narrated by Yazid bin Abdullah. We were at Mirbad. A man with disheveled hair and holding a piece of red skin in his hand came. We said, "You appear to be a Bedouin." He said, "Yes." We said, "Give us this piece of skin in your hand." He then gave it to us and we read it. It contained the text, "From Muhammad, apostle of Allah, to Bani Zuhair ibn Uqaysh. If you bear witness that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is the apostle of Allah, offer prayer, pay zakat, pay the fifth from the booty and the portion of the Prophet and his special portion, Safi, you will be under the protection of Allah and his apostle." We then asked, "Who wrote this document for you?" He replied, "The apostle of Allah." The writing on the piece of skin was done by Muhammad and no one else. Al-Tirmidhi Hadith 96, narrated by Abdullah bin Amr. Allah's messenger went out and he had in his hand 2 books. He said, "Do you know what these 2 books are?" We said, "Allah's messenger, we do not know, but only that you inform us." Thereupon he said, "This one which my right hand possesses is a book from the Lord of the worlds. It contains the names of the inmates of paradise and the name of their forefathers and those of their tribes. It is most exhaustive, and nothing will be added to it, nor anything eliminated from it up to eternity." He then said, "This one in my left hand is a book from the Lord of the worlds. It contains the names of the denizens of hell, and the names of their forefathers and their tribes. It is also exhaustive to the end, and nothing will be added to it, nor anything will be eliminated from it." The companion said, "Allah's messenger, if this is the case, then where lies the use of doing a deed if the affair is already decided?" Ladies and gentlemen, the most important item in this story is that it compromises the assertions by his followers that he was illiterate, since the only way possible for Muhammad to have known the extensive contents of the 2 books so as to differentiate between them was if he could read, especially since they were not revealed to him by either Gabriel or Allah. This was not a case of inspiration, but of definite reading and evaluating the information within. Just as important for the listeners to know is the comment made by his followers regarding the concept of predestination that fills many of the verses of the Quran. Even they, who were among the most illiterate, the most unlearned and most superstitious people in Arabia, were astute enough to understand the futility of life under the concept or dogma of predestination. If people are predestined, then they have no free will to make choices, and hence there will be no need for religion, no need for prophethood, and no need for Muhammad, for Satan, or the Quran. And last but not least, the icing on the cake, as they say. Surah Al-Ankabut 29.48. And thou wast not able to recite, tatlu, a book before this book came, nor art thou able to transcribe it, takhutuhu, with thy right hand. This is an extremely illuminating verse which makes it clear that Muhammad, before his Quranic revelations, could neither recite nor write them down, since he was ignorant of them. Allah makes it clear that if Muhammad had known previous revelations, he would have transcribed them, that is, write them down. Was Allah wrong?
After watching this video, it provided us with some more insights how well read Muhammad was faking his prophethood, but I have one more video, quote, a cherry on the cake, of my side. Let's watch what this Muslim Abdul has to say about Muhammad, the messenger of Allah. Of course, I won't show you, after watching a full video, another one. Just let's watch the main part of this story. So the Muslim Abdul were shocking all the Muslims in the mosque with how a Muslim ulama was stating that Muhammad was not illiterate. But we aren't surprised anymore. Good. To the point.
Right or not? And one of the most famous scholars of Andalus, his name is Abu al-Walid al-Baji, great scholar of Maliki fame. Every faqih and every Maliki student of knowledge knows this name. He's a very famous Maliki scholar. He's from Andalus. And he wasn't the only one. Abu Dhar al-Harawi and the other one as well, I forgot his name. A number of scholars, they followed him in this. They began to claim that the Prophet ﷺ can read and write. And this spread amongst the masses. And other scholars got involved and they said anybody who says that the Prophet ﷺ can read and write is a kafir. You know the problem of calling different people kafir? It's not just in Pakistan. It actually happens all over, right? It's a common thing. And it happens all the way even in Andalusia, that they said anybody who says that the Prophet can read and write, he's a kafir. Why? According to the other group, and that's the majority, at least they said that he cannot read and write, and that's also my opinion, he cannot read and write, even though I don't make takfir of al-Baji, but they made takfir of him. And they said, why? Why do you think they made takfir of him? It what? It's mentioned in the Quran. What is mentioned in the Quran? An-Nabi al-Ummi, the unlettered prophet. So they said anybody who says he can read and write has rejected the Quran, he's a kafir. So there was a actual court case that was brought against Abu al-Walid al-Baji, who was the most famous scholar of his time. And the Sultan had to get involved. He was brought in front of the Sultan, and he was basically said, look, all of your other ulama are accusing you of being a kafir because you've rejected the Quran, because you say the Prophet can read and write. So he said, I have clear evidences that he can read and write. He said, what? Number one evidence, hadith in Sahih Bukhari, incident of Hudaybiyah. That when Ali ibn Abi Talib refused to erase Muhammad Rasulullah, one version in Bukhari, and this is literally what it says, the Prophet ﷺ took the kitab and he did not, وَلَا يَحْسِنَ الْكِتَابَ, he didn't know how to write. وَكَتَبَ Muhammad ibn Abdullah. So it clearly says he took the book, he didn't, meaning the scroll, and he didn't know how to write, and he wrote Muhammad ibn Abdullah. Because you know the thing of Muhammad Rasulullah, and Ali said, I'm not going to delete that. You know, remember that, right? So the version in Bukhari clearly says he didn't know how to read and write, and he wrote, this is what we have agreed to, and then the hadith goes on. So he said, this is an explicit hadith. He didn't know how to write, and he wrote. They said, how about an-Nabi al-Ummi? He said, an-Nabi al-Ummi was when he became a prophet, before he was a prophet, after he learned how to read and write. So Allah describes him in the early stage. And then the later stage, when there's no reason for him not to read and write, he learned how to read and write. So they said, how about the verse in the Quran? وَمَا كُنْتَ تَتْلُو مِنْ قَبْلِهِ مِنْ كِتَابٍ وَلَا تَخُطُّهُ بِيَمِينِكَ إِذًا لَارْتَابَ الْمُبْطِلُونَ. That you never recited any book before this, nor did you ever write with your right hand. Write with your right hand. وَلَا تَخُطُّهُ بِيَمِينِكَ. And you never wrote with your right hand. So they said this ayah is very clear. He said, this ayah is an evidence for me and against you. Why? Because it says, وَمَا كُنْتَ تَتْلُو مِنْ قَبْلِهِ. From before the revelation of the Quran, you didn't recite a book or write. Which means, مفهوم المخالفة for those who know usul al-fiqh, after the Quran was revealed, you did learn how to read and write. So, and he quoted other evidences. I have already confused you enough. I don't want to confuse you more than this. Believe me, they could not defeat him. They could not. Because he brought for everything that they said, he brought an evidence. And in the end, the case was dismissed because he had legitimate Quranic evidences and Sunnah evidences that they could not.
So, even to this Abdul, it's clear that Muhammad was actually well read and were writing, even taught he disagrees, but paradoxical, the people usually make decisions based of their emotions, but I like to look at facts and make logical conclusions, period. Like and subscribe for more content about Islam, Christianity, and general knowledge.